Okay, so let's start by installing ArgoCD and ArgoCD CLI. So for doing this, let me go to the ArgoCD's official documentation. And here we can go to the Getting Started page. Within the Getting Started page, if you see, we can install ArgoCD by creating a namespace called ArgoCD and by just applying the manifest. So this is the stable manifest, okay? And then you can also see that we can download the ArgoCD CLI and you can install it within your machine, right? So let me just go to the releases page in GitHub. And the current version at the time of this recording is 2.4.12. So let me go to releases. So I would like to use the 2.4.11 version. Okay. And here, if you see, we have a couple of options, right? We have the non-HA version as well as the HA version. And if you want to also install the CLI, we can get that in the assets. So let me just use the non-HA version. Let me just copy both the kubectl commands and I would like to run this within my Kubernetes cluster. And talking about my Kubernetes cluster, so I am using a single node Kubernetes cluster for the demo purpose, right? So it is using Kubernetes version 1.2.4.3. So if you currently see the namespaces, we don't have anything fancy over here. So these are the default Kubernetes namespaces. So let us go ahead and install ArgoCD over here. So this is going to set up all the required services. So let us quickly check the ArgoCD namespace, right? So let me just decrease the font a bit over here. Right, so you could see a lot of deployments, pods, and services being created for us. And currently these are in creating state. So let's give it a few minutes. Okay, so let me just check them again. Okay, so if you see here, all the pods are currently in running state. And if you see the pods, we have the application controller, the text server, the notification controller, Redis, repo server, and the ArgoCD server. Along with that, you also have various services also present as part of the manifests. And we are interested in the ArgoCD server for the time being. Okay, so let me just get the services. So here, if you see the services, currently all the services are of type cluster IP. So we are interested in the ArgoCD server, which is going to give you the user interface. And let's try to change this to node port. So let me just quickly edit the service ArgoCD server, and let me just change the type to node port. Okay, it took 10 seconds for me to edit that. So the ArgoCD server is now accessible on port 30663. So let's go ahead and try to access this port. So this is currently running on a public Kubernetes cluster. So I should be able to access this using the IP address of my server along with this port number, right? So the IP address is 139.59.21103. So let me just quickly open that. Let me just check this again. Okay, so currently this will be listening on a private certificate or a self-signed certificate. So the connection is not private. So you just need to accept the self-signed certificate. And this is the UI you will be getting. So the first thing what we can do is we can try to log in. So the username by default is admin, but what about the password? You should know what password you need to use for logging in. So in order to get the password, we can go back to the Kubernetes cluster. And within the Kubernetes cluster, I can search for the secrets within the ArgoCD namespace. So you can see here, it comes up with the ArgoCD initial admin secret, the notification secret, and some secret. Okay. So for me, we'll currently look into the ArgoCD initial admin secret. So let me try to fetch this. I want to get this in JSON format. I want to use JQ. Okay, let me just get this in JSON format. And if you see here, we have a password field, and this is currently in base64 encoded format. So let's try to decode this and use it for logging in. So I can simply use JQ dot data dot password, right? So let me just pipe this to a base64-d, and this is the password which can be used for logging into ArgoCD. So let me just copy the password, go back to the browser, paste it, and click on sign in. So now you're signed in to the user interface. So currently you won't have anything. You don't have any applications because we have just installed ArgoCD. You can also check. I mean, if you want, you can create repositories over here, which can connect with your GitHub repositories or Helm charts. You have various options for configuring certificates for the Git repositories, connecting or configuring to multiple Kubernetes clusters, creating Argo CD projects, and also configuring accounts as well. So let me quickly update my password over here. So I can go to the user info, and if you see here, currently I'm logged in as admin, and this was issued by Argo CD because this is the default user. So let me quickly update my password because I obviously won't be able to remember the randomly generated password. Okay, so I just updated my password over here. And if you want to read the documentations, you can go to the last tab, right? So this is how the UI looks like. And since I have updated the password, it is going to automatically log out and ask me to re-log in using the updated password. Right? So this is how the UI looks like. So we will be exploring, other options in the UI as we move forward. But for the time being, let's also install the CLI so that we can access the Argo CD server, the applications through the CLI as well. So I can go to releases. In the 2.4 level release, I can scroll down and we have various assets over here. So let me just take in the Linux AMD 64 asset. Let me copy the URL. So within the server or within my Kubernetes cluster, so I can simply go use a simple duplicate, paste in the URL. So it's around 125 MB. So let's give it a couple of seconds. So now, so we should be having the ArgoCD Linux AMD 64 downloaded. So let me just rename this to ArgoCD. Okay. So let me make this executable by executing the chmod +x command. And let me move this to the user local bin directory. Okay. So now ArgoCD should be accessible. So if I do ArgoCD from the CLI, if you see, it gives you all the options over here. So you can use ArgoCD to manage the accounts. You can use it for administration purpose. Whatever basically you can check and do in the UI, the same things can also be done using the user interface or using the CLI basically. So let me quickly log in for the time being. So you have a login option over here. So I can do ArgoCD login. And if you see here, by default, the login function, expects the server IP address. Okay. So let me, get the ArgoCD server IP address. So I can do ArgoCD login, and the server IP address is 10.98.110.228. So I can do 10.228. Okay. Since we are using a self-signed certificate, so I'm just going to accept this. And you need to use your credentials for logging in. So let me just use admin because that is the only user we have at this moment, and the password. right? So we are successfully logged in. So now I can use ArgoCD app list. So currently, if you see, this command returns nothing because we have not yet, created any Argo CD application. So this will be empty, but I can check out the Argo CD cluster list, right? So by default, when we install Argo CD within a Kubernetes cluster using the non-high available manifest, it is going to also, make the cluster where we installed it as the target. So it should be able to, deploy applications to this cluster. Okay, so far we have created or we have installed Argo CD and also set up the CLI. So for the demo sessions as well as the labs, we will be making use of a self-hosted Git service called as Gitia. You can also make use of any other Git service like GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, or any other thing. But we will be using Gitia as I've told you. So let me quickly sign in. So for the time being, I only have one repository called as the GitOps Argo CD repository. And this repository has all the demo exercises, which we will be doing as part of this, training. And for the current application, which we will be deploying using Argo CD, we will be making use of the Solar System manifest. So let me just click on the Solar System. And if you see here, we have two manifests. One is the service YAML, and the other one is the deployment YAML. So these are Kubernetes resources. And if you see within the deployment, so we will be, making use of a custom image called as Solar System v3 to, deploy it in the Kubernetes cluster. And to access this application using a user interface, we have a service which is going to expose it, using type node port. Okay, and currently, we have no applications here. So let's go and create an application. So you can create it using the user interface or the CLI. In this session, we'll see how to use the user interface. Let me click on plus new app. And I need to give an application name. So this is the Argo CD application. So let me just name this as Solar System App 1. And we also need to make sure that we need to select an Argo CD project to which the project will be mapped to, or the application will be mapped to. So by default, you will be having one default project already created. So let's select it. And you can select what is the sync policy. You can either select it as manual or automatic. So let's use manual for the time being. And you have a lot of options like the skip schema validation, auto create namespace, and few other options. So we'll see some of them as we move forward. And you need to mention what is the source, right? So you can either hard code the source details over here, or you can also mention the source using the repositories option over here. So let's create using the repositories option over here. So let me go to manage your repositories, and let's configure some connected repositories. So we can connect repositories using SSH, using HTTPS, or using GitHub applications as well. So let's use the second option over here. So we are using a Git service. If you are using Helm charts, you can select Helm as well. So let's use Git for the time being. So this is going to belong to the default project. And let's give the URL. So for me, the URL would be up to the GitOps Argo CD, the repository name. Okay. So let me just paste it over here. And the username and password and the TLS certificates are optional. So if this is a private repository, you can also mention these details. So let me just click on connect. Right. So if you see here, so Argo CD was able to connect with this Git repository. So you can see the connection status as successful. So where does Argo CD store this detail? So if you're using the username, password, and the certificate, so where does it store it? So you can go into the Kubernetes cluster. So I can simply do a quick kubectl within the Argo CD namespace and get the secrets. And if you see here, okay, I think I'm logged into a different cluster. So let me quickly log into the demo cluster. Okay, so this is our demo cluster. right? So this is the demo cluster. So let me check here, ArgoCD get secrets, right? So we have one repository secret which was created just 50 seconds ago. So let's check what data we have over here. So I can do repo secrets -o JSON, right? So it has three data. I mean, three fields within the data. So it has the project, type, and the URL. So the type is Git, and the project is default, which is of course base 64 encoded. So let's check the URL. So I can use a simple JQ command, data.url-r, and let me just base 64 decode it. Right. So whatever URL, whatever details which you have used in the UI, so those will be secured using Kubernetes secrets. Even if you use TLS certificates and username password, so that will be secured using the secrets. Okay. So that's how ArgoCD is going to store the data. So let's go back and create a new application. So let me click on plus new app. Let me again name this Solar System App 1 within the default project and the manual sync policy. And for the repositories, I can select the repository which I've just added, which I've just configured. And let me select the path. So the path is going to be the Solar System directory within my Git repository. And once the source details are selected, you can also select the destination. So the destination would be the same target Kubernetes cluster where ArgoCD is running for the time being. And I want this application, to deploy the resources to a specific namespace called as Solar System. Okay. So these are the details which I've given for the time being. So I'll not touch the plugins and the directory options for now. So once you gave the source, destination, and the application details, we can go ahead and create it. So it's going to create an application for us. And if you see here, currently the status is missing and out of sync. So let's go into this application. So this application was able to connect with the Git repository, and it found out that it needs to deploy two Kubernetes resources, the service and the deployment. But currently these are not deployed. If you see the application status, this is missing. It means that these resources are not yet deployed in the Kubernetes cluster. And the sync status by default would be out of sync because the services which are there in Git are not present in the Kubernetes cluster. So we can quickly confirm this. You can go to your Kubernetes cluster. You can do a quick kubectl get namespaces. If you see, we don't have any Solar System namespace created yet. You can also check kubectl get pods in all the namespaces, and you don't see any Solar System pods or present over here. So how do you sync the applications? So you can manually do a synchronization over here. So you can click on sync, and it's going to ask like which are the resources which needs to be synced. So let me just select both of them and click on synchronize. So as of now, you can see that the sync result is failed. So let's see why this was failed. Okay, so let me click on sync failed. And it is saying that both the resources failed to be synchronized because the namespace Solar System was not found. Since the namespace is not found, it is not able to deploy. So what we can do is we can either manually create the namespace, or while synchronization, you can also select auto create namespace. So when I do this, ArgoCD is going to create the namespace, and within the namespace, it is going to pull the resources and deploy them. And if you see here, once the resources are deployed, the health of the application will be changed to healthy because both the resources have been deployed. So we can check the same thing in the Kubernetes cluster as well. So now if I do kubectl get namespaces, I should see a new Solar System namespace created 20 seconds ago. And if I do kubectl, okay, let me just go and get all the resources from the Solar System namespace. You can see that we have a deployment, a replica set, a pod, and a service as well. And the pod is currently in running state. So we can access this using the service node port, which is currently 30280. You can also get these details from ArgoCD itself. So here, if I click on the service, it's going to, if you scroll down, it's going to show you the live manifest and the notepad as well. Okay, so let me just copy this and let me just try to access this. Right. So this is a very simple PHP application which just shows you the solar system. And currently, since we are using the V3 version of the image, it has only 3 planets. It has the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Earth in the V3 version, right? So this is how the application looks like. Okay. So we have currently deployed the V3 version. Okay, and this is how it looks like in ArgoCD. So generally what happens is, when a CI/CD pipeline is enabled for the solar system application, and whenever the developer makes any change in the solar system application, a new image will be created and it's going to be pushed to the Docker repository or any container repository, from where this repository or this manifest will be updated. So we'll follow that process in the upcoming sessions. For the time being, let's manually update the image to a newer version. So what we can do is, so just for the demo purpose, let me edit this file directly in the Git repository and change the image version from V3 to V6 so that I can see 6 planets instead of 3. So let me just click on, let me just say that, okay, some commit message updated the image to V6, and let me just commit it. Okay, so I made a change in the deployment manifest, and let's see what happens in ArgoCD. So currently ArgoCD, it doesn't find any synchronization issues, because by default it takes around 3 minutes to poll the Git repository to find any new changes. Okay, so to avoid that, you can also do a hard refresh, which is going to poll the repository and check for any new changes. And since we made a change, you can see that currently the sync status is out of sync again, right? So you can also check what was the recent change made over here. I think once we synchronize it, you get the comment as well, like what was the change which was made. Okay, so as of now, it's still using the V3 version. So once it shows auto synchronize, you can click on synchronize. If it also shows you like which of the manifest was updated, right? If you see here, you can see a small icon here. The deployment manifest was updated. Okay, so let me click on synchronize manually and let me synchronize it. And if you see here, a new replica set will be created and a new pod will be created based on the new image. Okay, so let's just give it a minute, and you can also see here the comment over here, which is updated the image to V6. So this was the commit message which I have entered when I modified the manifest YAML within the Git repository. Okay, so this new pod has been created. So let's go and refresh the solar system UI. So I could see 6 planets, but at the same time, if you see here, I don't see the Sun and I don't see, the Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn. I'm able to see the 3 large planets, which are the Pluto, I think it is Neptune, and some other planet, right? So this is a malformed image, right? So there was some mistake made by the developer, and I'm not able to see the actual planets which I was intended to see. So this needs to be rolled back. So how do we roll back in ArgoCD? So using ArgoCD, it's also simple to roll back. So I can click on history and rollbacks within the ArgoCD application. And it's going to show me like what are the different revisions which were deployed in this application. And this was the previous revision which was deployed, right? 5 minutes ago. So I can simply click on rollback, and it's going to use the previous Git configuration. So if I click on rollback, it's going to make sure that I want to roll back or not. So let me just click on OK. And it is going to roll back to the previous Git configuration. And since it is rollbacking to the previous configuration, again the status of the application will be out of sync. Okay, so now if I go and refresh the UI, I should see the previous 3 planets, because I simply rolled back using a single option within the UI. right? So this is how you can quickly create applications, and you can synchronize changes from Git to Kubernetes. And at the same time, if you want to roll back, you can use the history and the rollback option as well. Okay, so let's also delete this application and see what happens. So what happens if I delete the application? So let me just delete it. So once you delete the application, all the resources which were created as part of the application will also be deleted. If I go to the Kubernetes cluster, and if I do get all in the Solar System namespace, you don't find any resources because all the resources will also be deleted when you delete the application. And one more thing, if you check the namespaces, the Solar System namespace will not be deleted. Only the resources which were part of the application will be automatically deleted. So that's all for now. Thank you.